Let's look at what is happening in terms of monthly data. Earnings only from the public sector is about 3,420 Ghana cedis. On the average, output per person is about 1,420, depending on whether you use just the number of people or discount it based on the number of hours. So we see twice the difference between our output and our earnings. I didn't speak so much about the data on expenditure because it's captured at the household level, so the unit of analysis should be looked at carefully. But once I see this, at a time that people are talking about neutrality allowance, our earnings are twice our output. There's something basically wrong. And this is coming from our formal sector. So when I got a privilege to host the UTAG executives nationally on our single spine, which was led by our own president, I said to him, go and do the analysis well. It's too early for us to think about comparisons between the public sector and the private sector. Because within the public sector, as I showed to you earlier on, there's inequality of about 0.71 once I throw out all the outliers.
So that was Professor Inim, Professor of Economics and the government statistician, delivering his inaugural address. So we all heard what he said there. Now, National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, which is one of the big unions within the education sector, is angered by this statement. Now, according to the president of the association, Angel Carbonu, the statement from the government statistician simply does not reflect reality.
I have a very serious problem with the statement of the government statistician, because he has jumped onto the bandwagon of people who make generalized statements without giving us any measurement reference or measurement module that we all can refer to, or what he is using. Workers in this country work. Workers in this country have never resisted supervision. Workers in this country are working even when we don't have the working tools. And workers in this country are providing to the people of this country services, despite the fact that government is reneged on its responsibilities. So we expect the government statistician, and in any case, when there is a title called government statistician, some of us have very serious fundamental problem with that title, government statistician.
That was Angel Carbonu. Meanwhile, the Secretary of the University of Ghana branch of UTAG, Professor Ransford Jampu, says that it was not academic or scholarly for the government statistician to lump together all public sector workers in the assessment that he did.
In these current times of austerity and hardship, it is inhuman for any academic to make assertions that palpably regard the toil and hard work of some real public servants. Any blanket assertion that suggests that all public servants earn more than they produce without first telling us the outcome of specific job evaluations and labor market surveys undertaken, in my view, is a sweeping assertion that can only be made by an academic with partisan lenses and partisan sympathy. You cannot lump all public servants together. You must necessarily disaggregate. Public servants are not necessarily homogeneous bunch of workers. There are those whose appointments are based on nepotism. These are the ones who, for lack of expertise, can be described as earning more than they produce. And this category of public servants must be distinguished from professionals and qualified people appointed within the public service who work so hard to produce, if you like, nation builders like university teachers, and yet receive pittance and get mocked that their hard work is rewardable only in heaven. You can also talk about the last segment of public servants who are politicians whose only qualification to office is excessive partisanship. They earn beyond imagination and produce propaganda. And so we are not the same. It cannot be part of any serious scholarship or any academic to lump all of us together. It doesn't show scholarship.
Now, Dr. Thomas Kusi Boafo, who is the CEO of the Public Sector Reforms, also commented on this. In fact, he emphasized that Professor Enim did not take into cognizance the impact of COVID on the output of public sector workers. Let's hear him.
What I would like to say is that looking at this research, what he came out with, he put all the public sector workers into one category. And that is what, to me, I do not understand very much.
Thank you
then
very much.
Also, maybe he did not take into cognizance the problem of the COVID and its ramifications on the entire public sector fraternity globally, and for that matter, Ghana. If you look at the period during the COVID, you realize that productivity was generally low, and that was understandable. And because there were lockdowns here and there, people were working during shift period. A whole lot of people worked under shift system. So if you have a situation like this and you say that they were paid more than their productivity, I will understand it, because what they gave out during the COVID period vis-a-vis the salary they took during that period, you realize that they took a little bit more than what they actually gave to the entire public sector work.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Okay, let's see if we can learn a little bit about how these things are calculated. How are public sector workers paid? What goes into that calculation? Earl Ankra is the Director of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation. He's also the Head of Public Affairs at Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Mr. Ankra, it's a pleasure to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, KY. How are you doing today?
Not bad at all. So let's get some education. First of all, is productivity a factor in calculating the salary of a public worker?
Thank you. It's supposed to be a factor straight from the onset of the single span pay policy. Productivity was supposed to be a factor. We called it linking pay to productivity. But so far, we've not started implementing that aspect of productivity in the salary. But then, at the end of the day, the employer wants to know if employers are working for the salaries and paying them. So yeah, it's supposed to be, but we are yet to start that phase of the single span pay policy.
So to be clear, as we speak today, productivity has never been a factor in the calculation of wages for public sector workers. Not yet.
Not yet. At the moment, to determine a salary, we go through job evaluation and we place the worker onto the single span salary structure, which determines what salary they earn. Again, every year in April, we go around the negotiation table to negotiate for the base pay for the following year. So at the moment, although it's supposed to be the productivity aspect is supposed to be a part of the single span, we've not yet started. I hope you're aware of the fact that when we went to Kwetia this year, the National Labour Conference, participants signed a communique which said the single span must be reviewed, the policy must be reviewed, and I believe the review process will factor the productivity aspect of salaries.
Okay, so if productivity is not a factor, then what is a factor in calculating, or what are the factors in calculating the salary of a government worker?
Yeah, I said first of all, you get the scheme of service of the institution, and then we use it to do a job evaluation, a very comprehensive and I must say scientific job evaluation. What goes into the job, the entry requirements, the level, the responsibilities of the worker, the risk factors, dexterity, physical effort, mental effort, about 13 factors that are considered. Now, once you're done with it, you'll be able to identify where the worker stands or is placed on the single spine salary structure. And then you use it to determine their salary. Of course, we have the base pay, which is supposed to be the lowest paid public servant in the service, and then it goes all the way up the spine to determine the salary of the highest. So it's job evaluation based on the scheme of service, and then we arrive at the base pay, which is what you call in the wider sector the minimum wage, and then it cascades upwards.
Right. So to be clear, what Fair Wages and Salaries Commission used to calculate these wages is the expectation, what is expected from the worker to put in to the job.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly,
but not
exactly so.
the outcome, what the worker is expected to produce, just what they are supposed to put in, the input, not the output.
What is expected of a worker to be able to play a particular role.
Okay.
So if I'm hiring a driver's mate, what are supposed to be his expertise, so to speak, what goes into the work. So at the end of the day, you are paying for the work being done. When he comes in the morning, he's supposed to wash the vehicle. When he gets into the vehicle, he's supposed to invite passengers in. And then he's supposed to collect money from the passengers. He's supposed to be informing the driver that we've reached this junction, someone is stopping or someone is coming on board. He's supposed to push the vehicle when there's a problem. Those single assignments are what you look at, and there's a template that we use to look at. Then we determine that for a driver's mate, this is what your salary should be, so that in order to avoid disparities across boards, every driver's mate at any station knows that this is what salary you are supposed to get. That is where the fairness and equity comes with the single spine pay policy, to make sure that a driver's mate in one particular vehicle is not taking more or less than another driver's mate elsewhere. Because they are doing the same job, they are supposed to be paid the same amount. So that is where the single spine comes in, ensuring that there is fairness and equity across boards.
Right. Now, before we pay these workers, do we check to see whether they have actually done what we expected them to do?
Good question. That's supposed to be the job of the chief executives, the institution, the heads of the institution, management, so to speak. At the beginning of the year, institutions are supposed to set targets based on a national policy. Of course, each institution has its mandate, the functions, and what they are supposed to do in any sector. So, at the beginning of every year, you know what is ahead of you, what you are supposed to accomplish, plus what policy might have come up from government. Maybe the president might have said something at the State of the Nation address, etc. And then you factor it into the targets you set for the year. Then you use that to set targets for the different departments. The different departments also pull their part of their targets and use it to set targets for the unit. And then the unit will also set targets for the work. So at the end of the day, all the way from the top, we know that something is being done at the bottom by the lowest level worker and then you can tell that, okay, they are meeting certain targets that have been set. You set the targets at the beginning of the year, you review it in the middle of the year, and at the end of the year, you give appraisals. Then you can tell if your worker or your employee is doing well. Indeed, Public Services Commission has a manual for performance, which gives the guidelines. And there is a template, there's a form in there, which you can use to set targets and score the performance of the employee. In the middle of the year, you're supposed to sit down with the employee again and make sure they are following whatever target and they are meeting the target you set for them. In case there are challenges, you work around them. if you have to downscale the targets you set, or maybe upscale them, you do that. We continue for the second half of the year, and then you do the appraisal. That is what it's supposed to be. But I'm afraid to say not all institutions go through that. The single spine pay policy piloted this linking pay to performance scheme. And we invited the different institutions to bring us their appraisal scores. Not all institutions were compliant. Sometimes the date of submission for the scores are very much delayed. So, of course, those were piloting programs. So we use them to gauge how the situation is. But not all institutions do that.
Right. So which ones do?
I don't have the list in front of me now, but yeah, some we sent letters to some institutions. Some submitted their results, their appraisal results for the year. Others did not. Others did not even respond at all. There were some that we actually chased, but they never brought their appraisals. What we're supposed to do is collect the appraisals and find out if they are meeting their targets. You know, every organization has its mandate. They have their functions. And so when you set targets, you have to be able to know that, okay, my employees are able to meet them. They have shortcomings, and this is how we are going to work around them. Of course, there will be the issue of resources. Do we have enough resources with which to do the work we've been assigned to accomplish the targets that have been set for us? But then, if you decide to look at just the resources, you might end up not being serious about the fact that people are supposed to meet their targets. The government of the Republic of Korea shared ideas with us through COICA on productivity in the public sector. We sent at least 30 public servants to Korea. to see how they go about their performance monitoring system in Korea. And so, and the insights we got from Korea is that you have to do the performance appraisal thing in your institution. Set targets, review them, and appraise the employee. Indeed, with Korea, there is the performance bonus part of the salary. You know, we have the base pay, which is among which we have the base pay, and then allowances. But in Korea, there is performance bonuses as well, which gives you a certain percentage of your basic salary when you perform to a certain level. So if you get grade A, B, C, or D, you are rewarded accordingly.
Right. So, you've explained that, all of this is stuff that we are yet to implement in our public sector. You've given this example of Korea. To be fair, in the private sector in Ghana, the same thing applies. We all go through performance appraisals. We are set targets at the beginning of the year. We are assessed against those targets to see how well we perform. That's a productivity measure.
Exactly.
We are yet to start that in our public sector. What would you say is the reason? Why the delay? Why have we not been able to start measuring the productivity of the government worker yet?
Let me clarify this. Some institutions are doing it, but not all of them. There were certain institutions we wrote to who said, "Oh, they will pass, not this year."
Would you say about 50% of them are doing it, or less?
To be very fair, it did not go. The piloting program did not go for the entire nation, so to speak. All public service institutions. No, we took a certain number. So that is not still strong enough to use to say, okay,
so
this number.
So what would you say, 10%? 10%? 5%? I'm trying to get a general idea of how many institutions we can say are measuring productivity of government workers. Would you say 10%?
I'm not sure. Let's say, no, I'm not sure.
5%?
I'll not stick my head out to that. Nice try. I'm not sure. But This is the thing. You see, it is easier to measure productivity possibly in the blue-collar system, not much so in the white-collar system. In the blue-collar system, you can say, okay, I'm hiring you, I want you to pack 100 cement bags into the garage every morning. So you are able to say, yeah, he came on time. He's been able to pack 100 cement bags, or he's been able to pack just 50 cement bags or 70 cement bags. It's easier to know that. But when it comes to white collar work, it is not easy. So it's just about, okay, this is what we want to accomplish at the end of the year. And this is the role you, in particular, are supposed to play. And then we can see that, okay, you're playing all those roles, and this is what it's going to lead to. Let's remember that, same as it is on the factory floor, one person's job relies on another person's job. Someone is supposed to put the product into the box and push it before you can seal the box. Same as it is in the public sector, there are different departments who rely on each other. So when it comes to setting targets and even appraising, there is a likelihood that someone might not have performed their part well, and for that matter, somebody else is failing. I will use the production system, in more or less TV production system as an example. Okay, so you have a team, you have a cameraman, you have a soundman, you have someone who's handling lights, there is a makeup artist, there's a producer and all that. Everybody can perform 100%. But if the soundman does not do his job properly, everybody has failed. Because you can't take the report and go and show it, and there is no sound, nothing. So although everybody has done very well, although everybody has performed excellently, just that particular person who missed out would have destroyed everybody's work. The resources, the time, and everything gone. The same as it will be in a restaurant. Everybody did their job well, but the one who put salt in it maybe put in too much salt, and everybody's job is gone down. So you have to, the leadership in that system is supposed to ensure that they are all performing their tasks properly, and it is teamwork, although you are evaluating individuals.
There is a law on our books, Legislative Instrument 1077, from all the way back in 1977, which mandates an institution called the Management Development and Productivity Institute to undertake productivity studies in key sectors of the Ghanaian economy. Does that institute exist?
Yeah, MDPI exists. It is headed by Mr. Odamitechi. Yeah.
Okay, so what work do they do there?
Remember, I'm referring to Salaries Commission.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that you interface with such an organization. Their output must be part of your input, surely.
Yes, MDPI has been instrumental. In fact, this whole Making Pay to Productivity program has involved MDPI. But you know, okay, the Tenders Fine started. We needed to migrate institutions onto one salary structure, from over 100 different structures onto one salary structure. And then we go through this whole market premium, labor market everything. And then we'll now come into linking pay to productivity. So possibly when the institutions work together, along possibly with PSC, we'll be able to make headway along this line.
I'd love for you to stay with us for a moment. I'd like to bring in Professor Godfred Bokpin. He's a professor of finance and he's an economist at the University of Ghana. Prof. Bokpin, good morning. Oh, it would appear we've lost Prof. Bokpin there. Let's see if we can reconnect to him. But in the meantime, we have Earl Ankra, who is the Director of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation. He's also the Head of Public Affairs at the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Okay, so we're trying to find out what it would take. What will it take for productivity to become a factor in our calculations? Sorry, just before we get the answer from you, Earl, let's bring in Professor Bokpin. I think we have him on the line now. Prof, good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to our cherished listeners.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'd love to get your thoughts on this productivity debate.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think that we are missing something out of what the government statistician said and probably was putting across, that in our discussion for compensation, it must be linked strongly to productivity. That is basic now. As a country, if we don't elevate that dimension of productivity, what labor puts on the table in return for what it demands, this country will not make the much needed progress we all hope for. And I'm sure if we did that, it may be possible that certain public sector institutions may have to downsize so that those who are actually doing the work get rewarded appropriately. So if we, and this calls on government working with the relevant institutions to ensure that public sector workers actually work to correspond what they ask for. If you do a baseline survey across a lot of public sector institutions, you want to find out whether they have job description, whether there are clear targets for which reason they go to work every day, Monday to Friday, and whether there are measurable timelines, targets, evaluated consistently. You may not find that. You may find that in other institutions. So I agree that we need to look at the disaggregation, but I also agree that the way we are going, the state will be overburdened and will not be in a position to sustain the wage bill and commit to other growth-enhancing spending that will near to the common good. So I think that is a conversation that we should be having from what the government statistician actually delivered. That is, for me, that is a take-home. And we all must support that drive. That, yes, we know that salaries are low across. Probably, if you look at the disaggregation, it may be far low for certain occupational groups. But the bottom line is that the state, the economy, in terms of the productivity, has not been highlighted the way it should. And until we did that, we will not make the much needed progress. And I think that is where the emphasis should be. And the next question will be, and I like the way you brought the Ghana Institute of Management Productivity Institute and the rest of them. To what extent do we leverage on their output in this discussion? And it will go to the employer, government. To what extent do we leverage on that? Where does that come in the discussion, in the negotiations, and the rest of them? And how do we monitor? What is the job description we give to public sector workers across? If we did that, you will realize that the mode of entry to public sector probably may have to change. Not the entire public sector, but of course, there are some organizations, covered entities, the way the recruitment is done and all of that. If you talk about universities and the others, we can have some few exceptions. But broadly, we need to look at this, and I believe that this should be a starting point. Not necessarily criticizing him, tearing the presentation and all of that. But the question is, what do we make of it? There are some fundamental issues there that as a country, we must take a critical look if we want Ghana to grow sustainably for the foreseeable future. We cannot, because if what we are getting is more than what we put on the table, averagely overall, then that tells you that the state must be looking at money elsewhere to pay us. And that's not sustainable. Yeah. That's not sustainable.
So, I mean, Prof, you're an economist. Do you deal in the basics of demand, supply, value? The wage bill is such a huge item on our national budget.
Yeah.
Would you say, as you know, in your professional view, would you say that as a country we are getting value for money from our public sector workers?
Okay, so I will not make a broad statement that we are not. For certain occupational groups within the public sector, they probably are doing more than is required of them. Is the inequalities, hello?
Yes, we're here.
The inequalities within the wage negotiation and structure, that tends to favor probably a few who leverage more on the wage bill, while the majority put in a lot and probably do not get as much. So whilst we look at it broadly, we must look at the disaggregation across different occupational groups. across those who are appointed based on merit, government appointees, Article 71 holders, and all of that. We must get to the details. That is where I'll come from. Because, you see, if you look at how much we set aside in terms of compensation of employees, and now that interest payment has overtaken that, and it doesn't look like in the next 2-3 years that is going to change, then it tells you that as a country, we are not going anywhere with this structure. We are heading dangerously. And I believe that if we look at the disaggregation and do proper job evaluation and the rest of them, we will come to the conclusion that certain public sector organizations or so covered entities or those based on subventions are probably overstaffed. Without clear job descriptions, without a way of measuring productivity, then we may have to do some kind of realignment. It is possible that within the same public sector, you may find certain occupational groups or sectors where they actually need more staff, given their workload, given the job description, and all of that. So that at the end of the day, we'll be able to have an efficient public sector that when it says that we are setting aside 37 billion cedis for compensation of employees, we know that productivity will not be sacrificed or will not be compromised at the end of the day. Because ultimately, the state must be able to generate what it needs to generate to be able to pay workers, pay the interest, and all the other things, and also set aside a sizable budgetary allocation towards growth-enhancing spending that would inure to the benefit of the common good.
Now, Prof, I mean, you've talked about disaggregation, and if we're to do that and we're to critically examine all the sectors under the public sector, we may come to the conclusion that some people are not doing much. Of course, the government statistician makes the point that on the average, this is what he has seen. But realistically, Professor Bobkwe, based on the current circumstances, do you foresee that happening? A situation where we'll do a disaggregation and then begin to lay off people whose output does not merit the input?
Sometimes it may not entirely embrace laying off. It may just be readjustment, realignment. Some may be retrained, skilled, upskilled, and then probably redeployed in certain other sectors overall. So you are looking at the disaggregation, but you are also looking at it within the overall picture. And so the government assistant talked about the average, but there's nothing wrong with that. we use averages in analysis.
Sure.
We can also look at the disaggregation and see where the nuances are and how do we address them. The state, the government, ought to have a keen interest working with relevant government institutions and even civil society and academics in coming out with a framework and beginning the conversation. I believe that, I may be wrong, but I'm thinking that this was where the government position was coming from, that we need to introduce this element in the discussion. Okay, so let's pick it up. Let's broaden that discussion. Let's see what we get from there. I believe that organized labor is probably ready for negotiation and all of that. We need to inbuild all of this. The productivity element, the value, what the labor is putting on the table is very, very important.
Right. Let's bring Earl Ankra back in here. And Earl, I mean, because of the uniqueness of your organization, I think you're the best person to answer this question. After years and years of negotiating salaries for public sector workers, will you agree with those who say that public sector workers are overpaid?
I'm sure the government statistician conducted a particular study and drew his conclusion. So I cannot from here take that statement and affirm or disapprove it. Who am I? He's an accomplished professional. But let's look at it from this direction. How do we feel productivity in our day-to-day lives? At the end of the day, the client who goes to the public service agency for any particular service, are they satisfied? Because you can mark yourself 100% in terms of productivity, but if the client, the worker, the common man who comes to your agency does not get satisfied. They are looking for certain documents and it takes forever. They bring their documents for processing and it is in somebody's desk. They don't get the best from the agency, irrespective of how productive, and I'm putting productive in quotes, how productive that institution claims it is. For the taxpayer, you are not productive. There is this national public sector reform strategy. Let me give you a little historical background to the single spine. It just did not come as pay reform. There was a point in time when the public was complaining that public service institutions are not serving the public right. We go there, we are in queues, our documents are stuck, and we are looking for certain licenses, and we are not getting them on time. Our businesses are delayed and all that. And so there was this conversation that, workers are not performing well. And then workers also said, no, you're not paying us right. So what happens? Let's do a pay reform, or let's do a whole productivity reform. That was what led to the formation of the National Public Sector Reform Secretariat, etc. And then we came up with a single spine pay policy. So the whole thing is, it is not just about salary, the productivity bit of it. And the National Public Sector Reform Strategy was also emphasis on the fact that public servants are not supposed to be self-serving. We are supposed to ensure that whatever we do leads to the creation of jobs, leads to wealth creation, and leads to productivity in the private sector. So let me simply put it this way. Productivity within the public sector is meaningless if it doesn't fit into private sector productivity, jobs, and wealth creation. You heard it here first. Productivity within the public sector is meaningless if it doesn't fit into private sector productivity, jobs, and wealth creation. So at the end of the day, the answer to your question is ask the clients who go to any particular public service organization, are they satisfied? Because like I said in the beginning, you may be setting your targets for the year. You may be meeting every year. You may be giving yourself thumbs up and fist bumps and all that. But at the end of the day, is your client being served right? If the client is satisfied with any particular government agency, then yes, they are not being overpaid. They are doing their job. They are doing what they are being paid to do. But if the client is not satisfied with any agency or any department, then it means no. I would agree with the fact that then maybe they are not earning their salary. At the end of the day, in respect for what you do, client satisfaction is key.
Right. So I just realized that people in the public sector get paid bonuses, don't they?
Depends. You have to be more specific.
I mean, they get bonuses. I'm just wondering what those bonuses are based on. How are they calculated? How do you determine who gets a bonus and how much?
At the moment, we don't have bonus on the single spine, please. We have the base pay, and then we have the allowances, the different types of allowances.
Right.
There are non-core allowances which are specific to the institutions or even certain departments, but then at the moment, not on the single spine.
So there are no public sector workers who get bonuses?
Yeah, because normally bonus should be paid when, as we know, it operates in the private sector. I've set a particular target for you. You have met and exceeded those targets.
Yes.
So, yeah, here's a bonus for you. At the moment, that's not yet on the single spine. But that is what we are supposed to look at.
Right.
Even determining the bonus at the end of the year. Who earns what? If we set a target and you perform 100% of the target, you've just earned your salary. Okay, so I asked you, going back to the blue-collar work scenario, I asked you to pack $100 into the garage. You've packed $100 to the garage. You don't deserve a bonus because you are doing what I'm paying you for. But if you pack $120 into the garage, then I can say, okay, based on what we've agreed on, let me give you a bonus of so and so and so. So the payment of bonus at the moment does not exist on the single spine because we've not gone through the performance bit yet.
Right. So not even for chief executives of these state-owned enterprises, even they don't get bonuses.
Kojo, you're going to bring this back 3 times.
No, I just want to clarify. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah, it doesn't exist on the single spine, no.
Right. Okay.
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right. Mr. Earl Ankara and Professor Godfred Bokpin, big thank you to both of you for your time with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Kojo.
Yes, Kojo, that final question that you asked, just briefly on that. So we know that there are some public institutions where bonuses are paid.
Yes.
They are not on the single spine, so Earl is right. They are not on the single spine. And so for those institutions that are paying bonuses, they are not on the single spine. We know, for instance, that the National Lottery Authority talked about the payment of the 13th month last year. That's a bonus.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is done. But for those on the single spine, yes, that's something that is not done currently. But the public sector workers who earn bonuses. So just a bit of a clarification in there. Now, all that has been said, I just want to say something. So if you speak to the HR experts, one of the things they will tell you is that when they are assessing you, when they look at all your qualification, when they look at your work experience, that qualification and work experience is supposed to tie into your output. Now, they're looking at that and giving you more money because they know that, based on your experience, based on your qualification and the knowledge you have and the skills you've acquired over the period, you would be of this value to them. And so your performance or your remuneration is based on that value to them. And that is why sometimes when they look at your value and they realize that you are not meeting the monies that are being paid to you, they put you on a personal development plan. They want to ensure that you are able to, perform to the levels that you're being paid. If over time, and that's something that happens in the private sector, if over time you are not performing or you are not of that value, you are laid off. That's fact. And so if you are not performing at the level that you are being paid, then I can reasonably infer that you are being overpaid. And that's the situation.
Yeah. I suppose the problem is that since performance is not even a factor in the calculation of these wages, how do you even know? How are you able to prove who is performing to the value for which they are being paid and who is not? That's the difficulty. So I feel as if perhaps these negotiations that the unions have with government, these negotiations should not just be salary negotiations. They should also be performance negotiations. They should be agreeing on performance levels. How do we want to be measured to determine that we've earned our salary? So that if we exceed, we can get bonuses. These are the important conversations that we should be having going forward. The defensive stance is not very helpful. It just means that we will end up avoiding the issue. But we can't avoid this issue. We need to get into it. One of the biggest items, if not the biggest item on our budget as a nation, is the remuneration of these, how many government workers?
700,000.
Right. We're 30 million people, but the wage for 700,000 of us is the biggest item on our bill. We have to make sure we are paying and getting value for money. We have to make sure of this. Let's be dispassionate. Whether you're a government worker or not, you're a Ghanaian. The conversation must be had. Productivity must become a factor in the calculation of wages for government workers. But anyway, that's what we think. I wonder what you think. We'd love to hear from you when we open up the phone lines right after these messages.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Fellow Ghanaians, kindly join us this Wednesday 8th to Friday 10th June for the Water and Construction Exhibition and Seminar Program at the Accra International Conference Center. It will be officially opened by Honorable Cecilia Dapa, Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources. The Exhibition and Seminar Program, or CPD course, is free to attend. To register, visit www.aceevents.com or register at AICC on Wednesday morning from 9:30 a.m. See you soon. For more information, call 0556 304 521.
Are you interested in studying in top universities and colleges in India? All you need to do is to visit the Study in India Expo at the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel, Accra on the 13th and 14th of June 2022. Come and meet top universities and colleges offering 200 plus courses and scholarships, all under one roof. Don't miss the Study in India Expo at the Movenpick Hotel on 13th and 14th of June. Organized by Affairs. Lead partner, Study in India. Supported by the High Commission of India, Accra. Register online at studyinIndiaExpo/Africa or call 0556 567 613 or 0247 035 347.
Arthur Legacy Sports and the Italian Embassy present the Cultural Trade Ball All-Stars game at the Accra Sports Stadium on Friday, June 17 from 5 p.m. A spectacular evening of football, music. The All-Stars game will parade top international stars like Andre Ayew, Felix Afena-Jan, and many more. Get your e-tickets by dialing *713*33*00# or send #00# to 0242 426427 and follow the prompt to buy your tickets and be a part of this football fiesta. Friday, 17th June from 5 p.m. at the Accra Sports Stadium. Be there or be squared.
On Friday, 24 June 2022, Raven Consulting GA presents Africa Family Business Summit 2022 with a theme Building Resilience in Family Businesses for Continuity. Speakers for this year's summit include Mr. James Mwagi, Sir Sam Esunjuna, Dr. Russell Thackeray, Mrs. Siri Agbe, Mr. Theodore Albright, Mrs. Kate Kote Papathio, Dr. Moses Akwa, Miss Franca Maria Andal, and your convener, Mr. Dennis Oteng. Remember, the event is on Friday, 24 June 2022. Time, afternoon session 1 p.m. It's an executive workshop with Dr. Russell Thackeray. Evening session 6 p.m. Networking dinner and AFB conference. The venue is the Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast City, Accra. For details of participation and corporate packages, please contact 0509 732 535. Partners ACCA Labionka Company Limited, Kempinski Hotel, Apex Human Consult. Other events, media partners Joy99.7 FM, Joy Business, Business and Financial Times. This event is powered by Raven Consulting GH.
Brakweku, can you fix the gas for me? It's leaking.
Oh, this one simple crowd. Just carry the stone for floor, give me, make a take put stop. You see, say stop.
Wow, but what if the stone falls down?
Taking risks with your gas cylinder is taking risks with your safety. Get serious quality with Sigma cylinders. Visit sigmaghana.com or visit our showroom in Accra, Opera Square, North Industrial Area, and Pagan Road, and in Kumasi, or call us on 0593 833 332 and find out more about our high quality gas cylinders made right here in Ghana. Sigma cylinders, exceptional cylinders for exceptional energy.
Wait, Mr. Lawson. So what is this?
I'm checking my money.
For what?
It's getting to the end of the month. I'm going to pay my rent.
You haven't heard of rent to own?
Rent to own?
Well, under the Planned City Extension project, they offer you a whopping discount for this month of May. But listen, you pay just 20% of the property and it's all yours. 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom houses. Plus, they are even developing beachfront house. Mr. Lawson, reach them on www.newaccra.city or call 05555 300 0577 9111 01 or 055 7054 635. Planned City Extension Project, shaping Ghana's urban future.
I'm moving into my
you better.
My first thing was sneaking into the fridge to sip on some Ideal milk.
My first telephone was 2 empty tins of Ideal milk connected by a long string.
My first taste of freedom was when I had 1 full tin of Ideal to myself in a
Make more beautiful memories with Ideal milk as we celebrate our 50th anniversary. You can win a brand new car and other exciting prizes when you text the special code behind each Ideal original anniversary label. The more you buy and text, the better your chances. This advert is FDA approved.
Ojam, why you make quiet like that?
Oh, Charlie, I'll go do some POP, give somebody where the cornice is not fine, crap.
I always they tell you, see, for decorative roses and cornices, the solution be interface. Them have different imported cornices and roses in different designs and shapes. Installing them be so easy, and it go give your customer the finishing he wants.
Ojam, take me go interface right now before I lose this customer.
Interface Limited is the leading supplier and installer of finishing input materials for the building and construction industry in Ghana. Call us on 0274-999999 or visit our website at
www.interfacelimited.net. Facebook Interface Limited GH. Instagram Interface.limited.
Coffee in your cup and Joy on the set. The Super Morning Show is always the best bet on Joy 99.7 FM.
In the movement, beyond in the salary, beyond in the productivity, mixed marks. Anyway, you're welcome back. It's the Super Morning Show on Joy. And if you just joined us, well, you've missed a conversation with Earl Ankra of the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission and Professor Godfred Bokpin, who's a professor of finance at the University of Ghana. He's also an economist. Now, it was interesting. Professor Bokpin said, look, let's take the meaning of what Professor Enim said in his inaugural lecture. The meaning is that we require detail, we require data. We need to dig deeper and understand who is being paid too much, who is being paid too little, and remedy the situation on that basis. Earl Ankra gave us some insights into how salaries are calculated for government workers. He said productivity is not a factor. Single spine will be reviewed, and the plan is to include productivity when that review is done. But that hasn't happened yet. So to this day, we have never measured the productivity of the government worker in calculating his pay. Never been a factor. Okay, so unlike what happens in the private sector where you are paid based on the value you bring to the company, in the public sector you are paid based on a value that is placed on you based on other things you have done before you ever do the job. So that's the reality. Apparently we are learning from Korea how to set targets in the public sector, but the political will is clearly missing. And that would explain why, to this day, in spite of all the work that has been done by institutions to ensure that we are ready to calculate productivity, it hasn't happened. That's one of the biggest items on our budget, as you can imagine, so it's important for that exercise to be done. It's become a matter of national importance. All right, we'll be hearing from you on all of this in just a moment when we open the phone lines. But first, Arthur Legacy Sports and the Italian Embassy, in partnership with the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the Ghana Football Association, are excited to bring back the most exclusive football event in Ghana, the Calcio Trade Ball. Now, this is a 3-day event. It officially kicks off on June 16, 2022, with a seminar on the theme Stop Player Exploitation, Save Football. The seminar is free. Then we have Friday night football on June 17 from 5 p.m. at the Accra Sports Stadium. The all-star game between ALS 11 and Ghana 11, featuring the biggest Ghanaian football stars with surprise superstars in attendance. So get your ticket via USSD code *713*33*00# or go to egotickets.com. You can also send a WhatsApp, scan a QR, or send #00# to 0242 426 427. Then you just follow the prompts. It's the Calcio Trade Ball 2022. Don't miss this. If you want to know more, call Kathleen on 0246 025 256. Now, if money was not a factor, how would you like to run your business? Picture it now and start being efficient with the Total Business Solutions provider, which makes business so simple with a wide range of services like dedicated internet, mobile services, data co-location, among others. Now, whichever business you run, whatever solution your business needs, Airtel Tigo Business will provide tailor-made solutions just for your business. So, what are you waiting for? Call them now on 0577 555 000 or send an email to business@airteltigo.com.gh for flexible total solutions for your business. Airtel Tigo Business, making business simple. So let's make this morning's business simple. Call us now. Tell us your thoughts on productivity in the public sector. 0302 216 541 or 055 1111 997. Okay, 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. Productivity has never been a factor in the calculation of public sector wages. Never. Claude is in Tema. Hi, Claude. Good morning.
Yeah, Kojo, good morning.
Thanks for calling.
Yes. Kojo, with the public sector, especially with the civil service, you need to go in and make inquiry because I know targets are set for workers, appraisals are done mid-year, end of year. So at the beginning of every year, the targets are set. Mid-year reviews are done. End of the year, other reviews are done. And there are resources that are required to be provided for staff who work. Now, if you cannot achieve your target, it doesn't mean that the worker is not committed to his or her work, but sometimes the resources are not provided. For instance, if somebody has to go and do work in the field, you don't provide the person with transport. How do you expect the person to go? So when we talk about public sector, the government has its responsibility to provide the resources they need to do their job. And they are supervising officers. If the supervising officers cannot supervise the staff under them, then that is where the challenge is. I don't think it's the workers, but they are managers, they are supervisors. We need to hold them to their responsibility, and then things will be done well. Lastly, I think when it comes to paying taxes, and look at the percentage of people paying tax in the country, the public sector is paying so much tax. The salaries are taxed at all. So I think the contribution of public sector or civil service to government development is not only in the performance of their duty, but it includes their paying of taxes. But bottom line is the resources need to be provided for the staff to be able to achieve their target.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claude. Thanks for calling us. Bernard is in Wenchi. Hi, Bernard. Good morning. Do we have Bernard on the line? No, I think we lost Bernard. Please call us 0302 216 541 055 1111 997. What are your thoughts on the public sector productivity? We are told that we are paying public sector workers 200% more than they are producing, according to the Professor Enim, who is an economist, also happens to be the government statistician. Let's talk to Ejari. He's at University of Ghana. Ejari, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Kojo. I hope all is well.
All is well, my brother. What's on your mind?
Yes, so I am working at the government sector, so I think I would like to emphasize my analysis on the government sector in terms of what I know. So I think that with the government, Kojo, the basic or the rudimentary error that we've been making, and I think it has been a perennial issue, is that government employs not based on the fact that government needs people to come and work, but government employs because it has become sort of, a responsibility sort of for government to employ. So if it doesn't do so, it will be bashed or it will be castigated probably in the media. So government would like to employ every year. Because for me, my experience, I have realized that a task that can be executed by 4 people in an office can be given to, say, 15 people, and majority of them will be in the office redundantly. So this is because government wants to employ such people so that they don't become burden on the society. So on that note, it defeats the purpose of productivity, because such people are not being brought on board for productivity sake, but they are being brought on board for being employed sake. So that is my first point. Then the second point, I think that usually, yes, as the other caller said, I want to reiterate that these appraisals are there, especially the local government service. We have the DPATs, and they kind of evaluate or appraise the various district and municipal assemblies to see whether they are in line with the functions that they are supposed to, perform. But Kojo, you can go to an office, and my office is an example. We have about we have 2 laptops for about 15 people in the office. And these 2 laptops, even one is not functioning. And you can imagine you going to work and not having a laptop, just a common laptop, to work as a staff. So if this person or these people are working under such conditions, such deplorable conditions, how do you expect or anticipate same person to give you a good productivity? It wouldn't work. You cannot keep doing the ordinary things and expect of extraordinary results. It doesn't work that way. So I think all of us as a country can sit down and do a sagacious or shrewd analysis into some of these things and come out with a good policy to serve as a panacea to some of these challenges. Kojo, that is what I have to say.
Thank you for sharing, Jare. Let's go to Tema. Ajiman Joseph, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo. I hope you're doing well.
Very well, thanks. What are you thinking today?
I think the way the private sector do their work should be applied to the public sector. In the private sector, if you exceed the targets of the work given to you, you will be rewarded. If you go below it, either you have your salary reduced or you'll be sacked. So for that matter, people are very serious. They go to work early than they used to go, and they close very late because they want to hit the target. It is not the same as the public sector, because at the public sector, I mean, it's our own work. People are being paid based on degrees and certificates. Sometimes people buy certificates to come to work, and those people they are controlling are doing all the work, but they end up taking big salaries. If you take me, for instance, I started as a guard in a certain private security company. From a guard throughout to the level of a coordinator. So I know whatever is in a private security. So if I'm to teach somebody or supervise somebody how to perform as a security personnel, I know what I'm teaching the person. But somebody will come and say, I'm having a degree, a certificate, appointing me as a certain position. But the person will not do anything better, but the person will end up taking huge salary than somebody who is doing the work. So I think we should change the way we go about our things in the public sector.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Bishop is in Asante Mampong. Hi, Bishop. Good morning.
Hi, Kojo. Morning.
Morning to you.
Kojo, this is a topic that we need in this country to match productivity with our demands, payment. Kojo, I just want to ask a few questions. Have you ever gone to an office and somebody who is to attend to you is on a private call using the office's line for hours and people are sitting in a queue?
Yeah.
Have you gone to an office and people come late and they go for break early, come late only to pack their things to go home? At the end of the month, they collect their pay. Let us look at those who go to work lotto. And this one thing I want us to look at too, dispassionately, to increase productivity. TV sets and radio sets in our offices. You can see workers congregating around these TV sets and radio sets whilst productivity is marking time. These are issues that we have to deal with in this country seriously. The targets are set. Then at the end of the year, people are identified that their bosses don't call them to tell them their weaknesses so that they will improve upon. Things are identified and we don't do anything about them. This is Ghana for us. Kojo. I think this is what I would just say.
Thank you, Bishop. Thanks for sharing. All right then. Let's talk to William at Gomwa Budubrum. William, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, so anyway, the conversation it is begun at a level. It should have begun from the top. Has the president in Ghana ever taken Ghana as a corporate? Has the president ever set targets, evaluate and met those targets first of all for himself? Has any president ever given any of his appointees job descriptions and set targets for them and help them meet them irrespective of they are being overpaid? We will be discussing flooding after so much cash has been sunk into them. So you see, if the productivity conversation and action begin at the top, it will cascade to the bottom. Prof. Enim did an academic theoretical exercise, which, of course, I'm not in the position to take. But that exercise to start taking practical shape from the very top. Because, as they say, leadership is cause. All else are effects. Have a good morning, bro.
Have a wonderful morning, William. Thank you. And thanks to all of you who called us this morning. We appreciate it. Here's how we'll wrap this up. On Thursday, 26th of May this year, after the President reported to Parliament on the staffing position at the Office of the President, Samuel Ekudzeto Ablakwa, Member of Parliament for North Tongue, issued a statement. I'm going to read a paragraph from it, just a paragraph, okay? He says, there is an alarming duplication of rules purportedly being performed by multitudes, which is not only dishonorable, it cannot bear judicious use of taxpayer cedis when we are facing the harshest economic conditions in a generation. Using communications to make the point, many Ghanaians will be outraged to discover that we have 3 additional directors of communications, the same position Mr. Eugene Ahin occupies. Per President Akufo-Addo's list, the Ghanaian presidency has 4 directors of communications, 5 deputy directors of communications, 2 communications specialists, 3 communication officers, 5 technical communications assistants, a media aide, an assistant media liaison officer, a communications consultant, and a presidential advisor on media, who also has a technical director to the presidential advisor. This swarm doesn't include the social media warriors and the army at the information ministry. This is what's happening at the office of the president, according to the president's own report to Parliament. So if that's what's happening at the top, who is surprised at what is happening everywhere else? We'll be back after these.
From now till August 2022, Litina Travel and Tours is giving you the opportunity to make this summer the most memorable time for